Now I know they say amateurs shouldn't get medals, but Mom, look at me, I got some! So, the big question is, does anybody do race reports anymore, or is it only the old that still do them? I digress. Welcome to my race report for round 2 of NEMRR back in May. It was a very wet, cold, rainy weekend that ended up drying out, so it's par for the course about the weather that's been happening in New England the last couple months, let alone the last couple of spring season. If anybody who rides a motorcycle on the weekend and works a 9 to 5 like I do, I feel your pain because the weekdays are fantastic and they're amazing, and then when it comes to the weekend, it's total washout. And last race weekend wasn't any different. For me, it was actually my very first race weekend because I decided to crash in practice during round 1, which you can see again here. So I was already starting on a back foot. Everybody already had ample amount of track time either during the off season going down south to race and do track days, or they had round 1, which I didn't have. I could have raced. The bike was able to be fixed at the track for sure, but this was not mentally in it, and I did not want to have to go out there when I'm not 100% mentally in it, because it's just going to cause danger to everybody else, and I didn't want to have to go through that again. So welcome to my round 1 race report. And as you can see from that, the weekend, especially for Friday's practice, started out really wet. I have my phone, which have notes, cold and wet, rain in the forecast all day. I went out there for a couple sessions. One of them was semi-dry and it was pretty good, but I really wanted some wet sessions in because I've not really ridden in the wet in a very long time, so I just wanted to have that experience. Like I said, I was able to shake the bike down to see if anything that I fixed was still broken. The quick shifter was an issue, like I mentioned in the last video. Just trying to really get a feel for the bike and a feel for the track again, you know, kind of just figuring out where my brake markers are, stuff like that, just the remedial things. Overall, Friday practice was pretty good. I ended up getting some sleep in for some reason because I was just so tired. Yeah, it just stayed rainy all day and it didn't let up, so I got maybe 2 or 3 sessions in and it just called it wraps. Just kind of figure it out the next day. If it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. Woke up Saturday morning and guess what? More rain. So I decided to skip practice altogether because right around my garage pit was, what are you gonna learn out there in the wet that you don't already know? True. But if you need wet seat time, you should go out there. My first race of the day was actually late in the afternoon, and between lunch and my race, the track started to dry out and people didn't know whether or not to throw their slicks on. Some parts of the track was drying faster than others. I decided, nope, I'm just gonna throw on slicks real quick, just take my chances, which proved to be the right move. Slicks it was, and all the sprints went back to 8 laps. If you haven't raced in a while and you gotta do an 8-lap sprint and you're out of shape like I am, good luck to you. First race, Expert Amateur 500 Super Sport. Was this my favorite one to have it combined as my first race of the season? No, but it's gonna prove to be a lot of fun, I think. So what had happened with the rain and the water table was basically the water table was just so high, even though the track was dry, that turn 1 had a maybe 4-foot wide patch of water that went from the apex all the way to the edge of the track. So that whole section right before the apex was completely wet. Race Direction let us know over the PA that that was the case, and on the outlap, every single one of us had a good look at this wet patch, and we thought, okay, just go through it, gas it after the apex. Since I had 0 points from the last round, I pretty much lined up dead last, which I kind of always like because it gives you motivation to pick off the people in front of you, and I usually get pretty good launches. Not to toot my own horn, kind of really excited to be starting dead last. Imagine someone saying that. I had a great launch and I picked off a few of the guys in front of me, and we all tipped into turn 1 like the puddle wasn't even there. The first lap was, I think everybody was just selling into their positions, but as I was coming down turn 10, I put a move on number 255, I think that's Dan Karen, on the outside of 10. And then I saw a Mankini check up after slipping through the puddle at turn 1 when we completed our first lap, and I thought, okay, well, I gotta modulate my throttle. Going through turn 1 is actually pretty slippery. So after that, coming up the hill and into turn 6, we're actually going 3 wide into it, which I've never actually done. It's kind of crazy to go 3 wide into that corner, but I gave way because all of our lines were going to converge and one of us is going to go down. So I was just like, all right, you guys have it. Simon goes wide, down turn 9. He gets picked off as I follow Mankini on the Aprilia 457, and I overtake him into turn 1 going back down. Unfortunately, going into turn 1, I had totally forgot about modulating the throttle. and I decided to give it a little bit more gas, and then boom, I had a moment where the rear end slipped out and I almost high-sided, but you know, there's no time to really react. There's only time to sit back down and tip it in for a 1A. I saw the next group as we were moseying down turn 3, and I'm trying not to fluff up my lines to try to close the gap little by little, but turn 1 honestly has been freaking me out. It was pretty much ashy road because we were just all settling in, and you know, nobody showed me a wheel or anything like that, but at the same time I was trying to close the gap in front of me. Trace is about 4 bikes lengths away from me. I can do this. I can close this gap and catch up and hopefully make a pass. But by turn 6, he takes a really high line and I'm forced to cut the corner. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, Dan Karen and I think a Duke 390 splits me in 7. So I just became a sandwich without the bread. All 3 experts were in front of me, making my work to catch one of them that much harder. We came up on an expert in Formula 50 and we all tucked nearly in line. I outbrake myself trying to outbrake the Duke 390 going into turn 1, but he did not let off, and I ended up going super wide, and I watched all 3 of them pass Chuck while I'm on the outside of the party watching in. It was very sad to see that happen. I passed Chuck on the outside of turn 2 and I tried to reel them all back in, and another Mankini makes a move on me. I don't know what's happening. There's so many Mankinis out there and I kind of want to know where to get one. By turn 6, I'm hoping Trace slows them up enough so I can catch them. But at the moment it doesn't really look that way. We stick together and all the way until the checkers. It was my first race back and that was the last lap. I even forgot what lap it was, but it was really nice because I managed a 128. Not my best time, but for my first race back in a pack that big, it was better than nothing. And you know, I could see that the progress was there and I was getting up to speed with things. My next race was race 13, expert amateur ultralight superbike. I was feeling way more confident going into this race with a break in between. The only downside was like there was only 3 people in my class. This is like literally the smallest grid I've ever gridded up with. I got a smashing start, but when I tried to go into second gear the old-fashioned way because the quick shifted doesn't work, I caught the dreaded false neutral, man. And it was like a moment of panic where I had to try to upshift again, and it actually worked. Another pump and dump and we got on with it. Ever cautious with turn 1 and the water that was still there. I actually went in there very tiptoe, but Crosby did not go tiptoeing into turn 1. He actually overtook me on the outside of turn 1 going into it. And for the whole race, for being 3 people, Mackenzie was in front, it was I and then somebody else in the back. Never got shown a wheel, but I was never able to show Mackenzie a wheel because I can just see him slowly pull away over the 8-lap sprint. At that point, I just kind of gave up trying to catch him, but just worked on being smooth and worked on my brake markers and my tipping point, keeping him as a reference in front. My physical fitness was not the best, so I didn't want to go over my head with my riding, trying to keep everything tamed. But at the end, I ended up managing a 26.973, so I couldn't be too mad at it. That's closer to what I would have wanted at the start of the last race, and I was consistent with 27s that whole race and picked up second place out of 3 people, for whatever that's worth. Don't at me. After that, the sun came out. We had high hopes for Sunday because it was just going to be the same. It's going to be nice blue skies, something we haven't seen in a while. To start off with Sunday, it was super cold. It was the first dry laps I've gotten since that crash on the out lap of practice. Yeah, it felt really good to get some dry lap times in when I didn't high side. I felt like everybody else felt it was going to be a really great day of racing. My first race was actually race 8, expert amateur moto 3. Just like my last race of Saturday, I gridded up with 4 people. What happened to my Moto 3 class? This was always my favorite class to race all weekend. I need all my Moto 3 guys to come back and race. Again, I had a cracker of a launch, and it soon began to look like a drag race going into turn 1 with a number 188. I thought I had cut him off to my left, but he held it open longer than I did, and actually he went around behind me to my right and actually tipped it in on top of me. Which, thank you very much if I didn't feel so sad about my racecraft already. Sweeney looked real fast, real smooth, and I was more than happy to sit behind him and using him as a reference. We both went into turn 6 right off of the first lap, high on the banks, and managed to pull it back together and settle in for the next half a lap. You know, having someone faster than you ahead will always help you in your own riding. You can see what they're doing, for example, where they're braking, where they're initiating a turn in, the lines they take. It goes on and on. The best thing you can do is apply some of the things that you learn while you ride behind them as you ride, which I usually try to do when I'm behind somebody who's much faster than me. I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to apply that as I'm racing. So it's always good to have somebody ahead of you. It's not always a bad thing if you're not the fastest. Like, I'm not the fastest. I am slow as molasses. Bars. It's a great thing to have a fast reference. That's the best way to learn. It was pretty much a repeat of Saturday's race 13, where I try to keep Sweeney in my field of vision, but slowly, not even slowly, quickly. He was much faster. He was doing 22s, and I could only manage a 25.59. So I was not going to catch him over the course of 8 sprint laps. He was already gone, and I was just racing my own race. I was very happy to be able to get down into the 25.5s, because that only means I was a second away from my best lap time on this bike from all of last season, which is the best that I could hope for. And that means I'm only 2 seconds away from making expert times. So yeah, overall it was a great race, and I did snag another second place out of 4 people, for whatever that's worth. Last race of the weekend, race 11, expert amateur 500 superbike. I believe this is also combined, which is gonna be fun. I was eager to get a good launch from the back of the grid and try to pick off as many in turn 1 as possible, and I was able to pick off 4 or 5 before tipping in. Crosby on my outside, Leary in front. Leary and I go level entering the braking for turn 3. Sands sends it into the apex first. I go wide, business as usual. I'm always going wide in there. The pack disperses by turn 6. Some taking a very interesting line, but I've seen that all weekend actually. After the starting lap, we start to settle in, kinda. By turn 3, we're going 3 wide into it. It's gonna be that kind of a race day, I think. Like right in the second lap, I knew it's gonna be a pack mentality, and we're gonna keep fighting the whole race. I made a pass on Crosby before tipping into turn 11, but no one has shown me a front wheel for the rest of that next lap. We were sticking with the experts down the front straight. The pack is probably 6 or 7 of us by now, which is quite a lot to be fighting. The pack ahead is out of sight because we were fighting with each other. They actually took off. We're just jostling now. Imbolt tips in for 3, but Sands chop him off at the nose, forcing him a pickup, and in turn forcing me to pick up because I was right next to him. This allows Crosby to overtake me on the outside going up the hill. But by now it seems like Trace is the holdup. Pretty much like if you can get past him in this pack, you can take off. But if you can't, then we're fighting, and that kind of sucks because we were just 2, 3, 4 wide into most of the corners, and it was actually feeling a lot like Moto 3. And at the time I was like, come on guys, let's get it together so we can catch the pack in front of us. In hindsight, it was a lot of fun battling with these guys. Crosby coming out of turn 12 has a huge moment that allows me to catch up and pass him back into turn 1, and I can see Sands pulling away because he already passed Trace, and then just as I see Sands, Imbolt passes Trace, and it's just now Tardif and I. Tardif is on the inside heading into turn 3, and Trace is in front, and I have a feeling I'll be going wide again. Our closing speed to Trace actually forces a checkup from both of us, allowing Crosby a 2-for-1 in that corner. Come on now. Well, it's better than running into the back of him. Trace ends up running into the turn 6 runoff long enough to allow both Tardif and Crosby to get by, and I'm the only one still stuck behind. My only real goal is to get around Trace, which I try to do coming down turn 9 on the outside and making a move into turn 10, but it's not enough as he has a better drive. Leary had it too as he overtook me on that short squirt into turn 11. That pass from Leary, I didn't even hear him or had any notion that he was behind me, so that was a good move. That was my thought going down turn 9 as I stayed level with Leary on the outside of him. I tried to level him so he can see the front wheel so I can tip in for turn 10, but it was too sketchy and I wasn't really fully in front of him, so I just let him have it. I passed Leary going into turn 1, and now I'm on Trace's rear tire as an expert passed us. We go up and over turn 4 and then down into turn 6, at which point my closing speed on him was so much faster, I thought I was going to run into the back of him. I don't know if he was checking up in the middle of the corner or just really that slow at the apex, but I honestly just had to avoid crashing into the back of him. Because of this, Leary and Stockford actually passed me and then catches up to the back of Trace. The same thing over and over again, and I was just actually getting a little bit frustrated at this point. I actually reclaimed the position behind Leary into turn 1, but Stockford isn't making it easy. He retakes me exiting turn 6 towards turn 7. I've already lost count at what lap we're even on, and as a few experts come passing us. Coming out of turn 12, I was actually pretty bummed to see the checker flag. I had a really great race that race, but I just lost track of how many laps we had left. But all in all, it was a fantastic weekend. I got down to near my PB of last season. I took home 2 second places. Yay. And, you know, I got to hang out with my garage mates and the race fam and all the crew up there. The weather hopefully would be better, but it wasn't for the most part, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm hoping that for the Classic, which is happening June 13th to the 15th, I'll put the information here again for you guys, so you guys can come check it out and watch some pros race and, you know, come hang out with us cool kids. We're gonna have a lot of more riding in June. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at this season so far, considering my first run out. I'm looking forward to much more riding this summer. The goal is the goal. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna try and make expert times, and then we'll see where we're at by the end of the season. Yeah, man, I'm out, dude. That was a very long video. I don't know, maybe I should just do regular race reports. Peace.